Welcome back. I'm on to day 4 of the hardest SAT questions, at least from Reddit. I'm really enjoying these. They're quite, some of them quite difficult, some a bit more difficult than others. I think today's is quite tricky. As ever, do pause the video, have a go at it. I'll leave you to it and come back to me in a minute. Let's see if we've got the correct answer. Okay, so have you had a go at this question? This question is not as bad as it looks if you just try and lay out the individual triangle. So what do I mean by that? So I'm going to start with a big triangle, ABC, and I'm going to replicate that triangle up here. So all I've done is from the question, it tells me that A to B is root 363, and it tells me that the BC is equal to 132. Now I know that any triangle formed from a diameter is a right angle triangle. So I know the angle at A is going to be a right angle. And I'm going to call the angle at B, I'm going to represent it by one line like this. I'm going to represent the angle at C by 2 lines, as you can see here. Okay, so I've started to set the question up. Let's consider this triangle next. So we're going to consider the triangle ADB. So I'm going to sketch that one over here as well. Now, what we notice here is I already know from the question that A to B is root 363. I also know that the angle at D is a right angle. And I know the angle at B is the same as the angle B above, so I'm going to represent that by one line. Now, this is where you need to make sure you're okay with this bit here. So because the angle at B is one line, the angle at C is the one with 2 lines, it means the angle at the top right here is going to be 1 line, which means 90 minus that is going to be the angle with 2 lines. Again, if you're not quite sure about that, pause the video, just think it through. It makes sense because all the right angles and how it falls out. And then I'm going to do the third triangle. I don't use a third triangle. I'm going to do it just for completeness. So triangle ADC. Again, think through what I've got. So I know the angle at D is a right angle. I already know angle at C is the same as the angle at C above. And using the logic I've just used, the angle in the top left must be the angle with a single line. Now, crucially, why does this matter? This matters because I have 3 triangles that have the same angles. If I have the same angles, they must be similar triangles. And once I know it's a similar triangles question, all I need to do is think about scale factors. Now, from the question, I care about side BC, that I know is 132, and BD, which is in triangle 3, that I don't know a lot about. But what I do know is the hypotenuse in triangle 3, and I know the hypotenuse in triangle 1. So that allows me to set up a scale factor. So I can say the scale factor to go from triangle 1 to triangle 3 is I'm going to multiply by the new hypotenuse, root 363, and divide by the existing hypotenuse, which is 132. Now that doesn't look super nice, but I'm kind of hoping this is all going to cancel out nicely later on. Remember that scale factor must apply for the relationship between any corresponding set of sides in triangles 1 to triangle 3. So let's think about what I need. I need BD. Now I know BD is the side that's between the right angle and the single lined angle. Now I've got that in my triangle 1. In my triangle 1, the length AB is that equivalent length. It's the length between the right angle and the single lined angle. So that is root 363. So therefore BD must be root 363 multiplied by the scale factor, which is going to give me 363 over 132. And thankfully, because I can see they're both divided by 3, and I can divide them down by 11, that ultimately is going to give me 11 over 4. Cancels out nicely. And by the way, when you're doing a question like this, if it hasn't cancelled out relatively nicely, you've probably done the wrong thing. You would imagine it should do, wouldn't you? So I've now got BD. I was given BC originally, so therefore the question is nice and straightforward. What is BC divided by BD? Well, that's just going to be BC over BD is 132 over 11 over 4. You can keep, change, flip, or you can just divide by 11 multiplied by 4. It's the same thing, and you are going to get 48. So my final answer from this fairly horrible looking question is just a nice straightforward 48. If you got that, well done. I think this is a pretty difficult question, but if you just work your way through, it falls out quite nicely. I will see you tomorrow. So tomorrow's the 5th of 5. I haven't got this in any difficulty order, but I do think tomorrow's question is quite challenging. As ever, do leave a like, subscribe to get more of these videos every day, and obviously comment if you've got anything to say down below. Thanks all. Bye.